conflict drinking game. Every clash, take a shot. Dr. Pepper, drink responsibly. Hey guys, it's Brendan Borman, and I'm back for another 270 video. Today I'll be playing as William McKinley, taking on some other candidates in the 270 game who were assassinated in real life. I chose William McKinley because he's the president that I know the least amount of this group, and he has a delicious 60% manufacturing bonus. He has some national groups that I can play with, a good town and gown, a good swing state bonus. Overall, I'm actually really impressed with William McKinley's stats. Turn number 1 is in the books, and look at all of those clashes. On turn number 2, we're going to complete our evangelical and gun lobby bonuses, and then as we wait for other players, let's talk about Abraham Lincoln. On April 14th, 1865, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, who was attending a play at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Lincoln died the next day of his wounds, but he was the first U.S. president to be assassinated. His funeral and burial were marked by an extended period of national mourning. Near the end of the Civil War, it was Wilkes Booth who was trying to reignite the Civil War in the South, but it did not work. He and his other co-conspirators went on a try to survive and ran away. And after a 12-day chase, they were eventually captured and they were later hanged for their roles in the conspiracy. I find it personally tragic that Abraham Lincoln wasn't able to see the Reconstruction following the Civil War, but he remains today as one of the greatest presidents in American history for not only his actions as president, but what he represents to Americans still to this day. On turn number 4, I'm going to complete my big conservative, go up in both youth vote and women's movement. The second assassination of a United States president came when James Garfield, the 20th president, was shot at a Baltimore and Potomac Railroad station in Washington, D.C. on July 2nd of 1881. He died just 79 days later, and again, it was only a short time into his presidency, only 4 months. Garfield's assassin, Charles Guiteau, wanted revenge and wanted Chester Arthur to return to the presidency. He was convicted and hanged just 1 year later. 7 more clashes. On this turn, I'm just going to complete my women's vote and my youth vote. One more quick story about Garfield. James Garfield was a very intelligent man. He could actually write 2 different languages, one with each hand at the exact same time, and sadly, an autopsy showed, and doctors' reports later showed that he very easily could have been saved if the doctors had been a little bit more competent. Safety precautions weren't taken. A lot of bacteria were spread, infections, and very likely if things weren't rushed, they could have maybe saved Garfield's life. After 4 more clashes, we finally have some action on the board. On turn number 6, we're going to complete our labor and environment bonus, and it's time to enter some states. Let's go for Arizona and for Virginia. William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States, who I'm playing with, was shot on the grounds of the Pan American Exposition in the Temple of Music in Buffalo, New York, on September 6, 1901, just 6 months into his second term. He was shaking hands with the public when an anarchist, Leon Czolgosz, shot him twice in the abdomen. McKinley died on September 14th from a gunshot wound. He was the 3rd president to be assassinated following Abraham Lincoln and James Garfield. He enjoyed meeting with the public, but following the Panic of 1893, there were many people who were upset with him. He had chosen Theodore Roosevelt as his vice president, and unfortunately, he did not have security with him. In 1906, Congress passed legislation officially designating the Secret Service as the agency in charge of the presidential security team. The assassin was shortly put to death via the electric chair. Our turn 7 steals were successful, and it's time to drink up 4 more shots of Dr. Pepper. On turn number 8, I'm going to close off Virginia and Arizona. Also, I would like to go up in swing states. Just checking to make sure I have a good swing state bonus, which I do. And as I look at McKinley, I do think he would make a great vice presidential candidate. Maybe there's someone like George Washington, who has high in manufacturing and in national groups already, and just really boost those core bonuses. As we continue to see more clashes in Illinois and in Michigan, this Dr. Pepper Fest is going to be crazy. Pennsylvania is uncontested, and it does not look like anyone took the bait in Arizona or Virginia. 3 more clashes. Turn number 9. Let's go up and get that swing state bonus. Let's take a second to talk about John F. Kennedy. JFK was assassinated on November 22nd of 1963. He was the 35th president of the United States, and he was riding in his presidential motorcade with his wife, the Texas governor, and the governor's wife. He was shot by U.S. former Marine Lee Harvey Oswald, and about 30 minutes after he was shot, he was pronounced dead. Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in 2 hours and 8 minutes after the assassination, and there's been a lot of circumstance and just debate about theories or why Kennedy was shot. Now, the 1960s were pretty crazy. We had lots of assassinations. We had Malcolm X being shot. We had Robert F. Kennedy. We had JFK's brother being shot in 1968. And then we had another person, Martin Luther King, being shot, of course. MLK is a candidate in this game. He's playing in this current matchup. And really, the civil rights movement in the 1960s, there was a lot of chaos. And thankfully, that has been the most recent assassination to our American presidents. Now, in the game of 270, we also have Julius Caesar, who was assassinated. We also have, it's kind of maybe not fair to compare to all the other candidates, but we have the big turkey. We like to kill and hunt our turkeys before Thanksgiving every single year. So just wanted to mention those other candidates. I do hope they add Garfield in the future. Turn 10 is now over. There's the oil and gas, ag, and manufacturing bonus. Look at that manufacturing bonus for McKinley, $120,000. Now we can go up and let's lock North Carolina. We can go up in Georgia, hopefully get that Old South bonus. And Michigan, New York, Arkansas. So if we're going to get all of the state groups, we're going to need to have all 4 of the big 4 states, but we're really going to have to start locking some of these small states. There's a clash in California, another clash in Georgia. Louisiana is locked. Michigan flips, which we'll have to lock that next turn. North Carolina locks. And Pennsylvania flips. That is the end of turn number 11. In addition to talking about the presidents who have been assassinated, I want to mention some presidents who were wounded or other assassination plots against them. Teddy Roosevelt was shot in 1912 by John Schrank, and it's crazy because Teddy Roosevelt was an experienced hunter, and he said there was no blood and that the bullet had not reached his lung. So he declined to go to the hospital. Instead, he remained, gave his speech as scheduled, and for the next 84 minutes, without receiving medical attention, gave his speech. He said, I fully understand that, ladies and gentlemen, I have been shot, but it takes more than that to kill a bull moose. Another president who was shot was Ronald Reagan. On March 30th, 1981, Ronald Reagan returned to his limousine after speaking at the Washington Hilton Hotel. John Hinckley Jr., the would-be assassin, fired 6 gunshots toward him, striking 3 others, including Ronald Reagan. Reagan was seriously wounded by the bullet that ricocheted off the side of the limousine. It hit him in the arm, breaking a rib, puncturing a lung, and although he was close to death, upon arriving at the hospital, Reagan was stabilized and eventually made a full recovery. On January 30th, 1835, just outside the Capitol building, a man attempted to shoot President Andrew Jackson with 2 pistols, both of which misfired. William Howard Taft also faced attempted assassinations, both in 1909 and in 1910. We had men from Central America, Mexico, and some other plots that did not come through. Herbert Hoover in 1928 was the presidential elect, and an Argentinian assassination plot was spoiled. FDR had numerous attempts and plots against him, but the things never came to fruition. Harry S. Truman in 1947 and in 1950 had a Palestinian and a Puerto Rico attempt against him. We had Richard Nixon in 1972 and 1974. They were planned by crashing a commercial airliner into the White House. We had someone who was intending to shoot Nixon, but that didn't happen. Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, even all the way down to George H.W. Bush. Bill Clinton had 6, at least, assassination attempts. George W. Bush, as late as actually 2022, had someone arrested for a plot to kill the former president. Barack Obama had a dozen or so. Donald Trump, multiple. And even in Joe Biden, as late as May 23rd, 2023, had a man from St. Louis drive a rental car into the White House. He was taken into custody, the guy, and had a Nazi flag. And actually, there have been 2 presidents who their deaths were maybe rumored to be assassination. We had Zachary Taylor die from illness, and they thought maybe it was poison. And then Warren Harding, the president in June of 1923, he had a surprise heart attack, and the autopsy was kind of questionable. But in the end, it was ruled to be a true heart attack. This is the end of turn number 15. Let's see if I'm able to get all 538 electorals. So far, I'm double pipping into each state that is unopened. Maryland flips blue. There is a clash in Minnesota, so probably next turn we'll be able to force a ballot, and the game will conclude on turn number 17. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. I know sometimes these videos can be a bit boring. There's American history. I like to incorporate the game. Obviously, this game against the AI was never in doubt, but I could use that to do some kind of a theme and talk about American history, which I love to read about that. 3 more clashes of Dr. Pepper. We're going to steal JFK's Maryland, get him back down to hopefully 0 EVs. We're going to go to the 5th pip in Minnesota, and we don't see any other pressure that could come our way. So let's lock Wisconsin, maybe 2 more pips for good measure in Minnesota, and Delaware flips by a pip. Oof. So we're going to have to steal Delaware back on the ballot. Hopefully my man JFK won't lock it. Maryland flips back red. Minnesota is ours. Ohio, we didn't have to spend maybe that much money, but that's okay. Youth vote is staying with us. Turn 16 is over. 535. We had 0 clashes that turn. This is a ballot round. We're going to lock Delaware, spend some money in Ohio. It's probably Texas, New York, California, Florida, some of those big states. I need to lock Minnesota. Definitely need to lock anywhere that is contested. Florida can go up. I actually don't even need to spend in Ohio. Just double checking here. Gonna do it anyway. Alabama, let's spend some of this money. Let's get this show on the road. If you have not subscribed, we're on our way to 5K before Election Day. Let's see if we can pull it off. No, we can't. Our dreams have been shot. Pun intended. Okay. Well, we're going to win 535 to 3 to 0 to 0 to 0. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next 270 video. If you were wondering, there were 56 total clashes in this game of 270. This is Brendan Borman. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.